So for a first-time home buyer, there's a pre-closing stage of the transaction. There's a closing and post-closing stage. So you also need to know whether there are liens on the property. So if the seller has not paid ground rent, then it means that there's a lien on the property. Then also property rates. If there's a property on the land and property rates are not being paid, then also that constitutes a lien. Nobody is supposed to sell land if the land is not registered.
Okay.
Yes, that's the ideal situation, is that you only buy land that is registered. That's the ideal situation. And you reduce that area into your possession by probably farming or building on the land. You may not have to purchase the land for the land to become yours if you're an indigent.
Wow. Okay.
Yes, because that is part of our customary law. The terms and conditions and all of that will be the same as the terms and conditions in the existing agreement, because the law says so. You follow me? So the laws has made provision such that for a Ghanaian, although you have not even, it doesn't have to be expressed, the terms of the old agreement will be will be transferred into the new agreement. Property is something that outlasts you, right? So in order for you to be able to pass down property to the next generation, it means that you ought to have followed due process. Because if you don't follow due process and the time comes for you to pass it down to the next generation and it is attacked, the way you acquire the property is attacked, what it means is that transaction can be set aside.
Yes.
Okay. So the only way you safeguard your interest in property in Ghana is by
Hello, my name is NKK and welcome to Sessa Global, Africa's leading property marketplace. Today we're in conversation with Emmanuel, a real estate lawyer whose office just recently won the best real estate law firm in Ghana. Today we're going to be talking all things buying houses and properties for the first time. So thank you for having this conversation with me.
Thanks for coming.
Okay. So let's just get right into it. Is it safe to buy a property in Ghana? Like, how would you?
Absolutely. I mean, it's safe. Buying property in Ghana is like buying property in any of the developed countries. The only thing is that you have to comply with the rules on purchasing property in Ghana. That's how you safeguard your interest in the property, by complying with the rules.
So can you expand on some of those rules? So what kind of requirements would a first-time home buyer?
So for a first-time home buyer, there's a pre-closing stage of the transaction. There's a closing and post-closing stage. Now, at the pre-closing stage is where you are required to do your due diligence. So the due diligence at this stage is conducting a search at the Lands Commission. This is the registry that has a recording of all transactions on land. Then you ought to do a search at the High Court to find out whether there's litigation on the land. At the Land Use and Spatial Planning Authority to find out about the zoning. And then we have the ground rent search. So you also need to know whether there are liens on the property. So if the seller has not paid ground rent, then it means that there's a lien on the property. Then also property rates. If there's a property on the land and property rates are not being paid, then also that constitutes a lien, which means that in the event that the property is sold, the government agency can come for the property, sell it in order to recover whatever is owed. So that is the pre-closing stage. That's the due diligence that you do there. The other searches that you also have to do, but we can't go through all of them. But this is the barest minimum.
Then, and this can be done with the help of a lawyer.
Of course. I mean, you can't do a successful real estate transaction in Ghana without a lawyer. And there are historical basis and all that stuff, but that's not why we are here. So let's just focus on why. And then at the closing stage, that is where you prepare the legal documents. In Ghana, currently, it is only a lawyer that can prepare a legal document. Because a legal document is an instrument or a letter affecting land. So if you want to purchase property, you don't use any other professional other than lawyer you prepare the legal document. That's what the law says. Any document that is prepared by a non-lawyer is void.
Oh, wow.
And if you are a non-lawyer and prepare a legal document, it's a criminal offense. Yes.
Oh, okay.
And even if you're a lawyer and you are not in good standing, for instance, you've been suspended and you prepare a legal document, that legal document is void.
Okay.
Yes. So that's how critical it is for you to do the right thing. You ought to ensure that you are following the rules step by step.
Yes.
So that's pre-closing, closing, and then there's post-closing.
Okay. So I'm sure people have landed in sticky situations.
Oh yes, absolutely. So many people have. So many. But the post-closing stage is where your interest is registered at the Lands Commission.
Yeah.
So that means that it gives notice to the whole world that you are now the owner of the land.
Yes. So when you register your interest, it's an official document.
Yes, that is given to you.
Yeah, that's given to you.
That shows that you are now the owner of the land.
Yeah.
And it's called a land title certificate.
Yeah.
So in Accra, Tema, Kumasi, and Awutu Senya, which is in the Cape Coast environment, they give land title certificates. But in other areas of Ghana, you get a registered deed.
Okay.
You don't get a land title certificate, you get a registered deed.
So is that available to Ghanaian citizens and foreigners?
You mean the land certificate?
Land certificate? No, the title deed.
Yes. Once you buy property in Ghana, whether you're a foreigner or a Ghanaian, you are entitled to get a land certificate. And in fact, nobody is supposed to sell land if the land is not registered.
Okay.
Yes, that's the ideal situation, is that you only buy land that is registered. That's the ideal situation. There are instances where the land is not registered, but you can still buy it, but it's a bit tricky. And like I said, you can't do these things without a lawyer.
Yeah. So is that how we end up with situations where a piece of land is sold multiple times?
Exactly. I mean, if the land is registered and you go and do a search, the interest of the registered owner is recorded in the register. So you know that you have interest to the land, right? Whereas if the land is not registered, but the person is claiming to be the owner of the land, and the person transacts with another person, there's no way of finding out. You get me? There's no way of finding out that this land has been transacted on so many times, because there's no record of any transaction on the land. So that's why it's important for you to deal with persons who have registered their title to land.
Okay. So there's a lot of people in our audience who are foreigners, who are interested in buying in the Ghanaian property market.
Yeah.
Are there any key differences between buying as a foreigner versus buying as a Ghanaian, would you say?
Well, there are some differences, but I mean, there are slight minor advantages if you're a Ghanaian.
Okay.
So if you're a Ghanaian and you are an indigent, I'm just being technical now, just a bit technical. Lawyers sometimes are a bit technical. But if you're an indigent of a community and you settle in an area and you reduce that area into your possession by probably farming or building on the land, you may not have to purchase the land for the land to become yours if you're an indigent.
Wow. Okay.
Yes, because that is part of our customary law. You don't have to purchase the land because you just reduce it into your possession, and then you maybe once in a while atone tenancy to the allodial owner. The allodial owner is maybe like the paramount, the chief, or the family head. You atone tenancy by just giving them maybe a portion of the crops that you harvest every year or something, just to show that you are respected. It's a token, a sign of respect. But you don't have to pay a dime. So an indigent can acquire land through those means, through settlement. But also an indigent can also pay for land like a foreigner does. But if it is stool land, so stool land is land that belongs to a chief and a community. So a community that has a chief is called a stool. So stool land, if it's family land, if it's clan land, then you cannot have more than 50 years if you purchase that land at a time. So the law is that if it's family land, clan land, stool land, you can have more than 50 years. But if you are buying from an individual, then
then you can have it.
Yes, you can have it for a longer period. All right. So, essentially, that is the law on
the
subject,
Ghanaian side. Yes.
On the Ghanaian side, but on the foreign side, and on the Ghanaian side, additionally, is that the 50 years that you get, the renewal comes by operation of law. So the renewal is implied.
Okay, explain.
So what I mean is that, assuming you're a foreigner and you're buying property from me, I give you 50 years. After the expiration of the 50 years, your renewal is guaranteed.
Without me having to do anything.
You don't have to do anything. It is guaranteed.
Okay. So then what would stop that? Okay.
By operation of law, the renewal is guaranteed. Yes. Right? Because the law says so.
Yes.
However, for a foreigner, the renewal is not guaranteed by operation of law.
Yeah.
For a foreigner, the foreigner must expressly state in the agreement that they want a renewal. And they have to state the terms and conditions of the renewal, including how much money they want to pay for the renewal.
Oh, wow,
yes,
okay.
If you have to be so certain, because maybe 50 years from now, I mean, I don't know your age, but 50 years is a long time. So if you are not here and you haven't expressly stated it in the agreement, how is it going to be determined how many years has been agreed to be given to you, the amount of money that you have to pay for the renewal, the terms and conditions, that's the covenant, etc. for the renewal? How is that going to be determined? So for a foreigner, it has to be expressed. But for a Ghanaian, the terms and conditions and all of that will be the same as the terms and conditions in the existing agreement, because the law says so. You follow me? So the laws has made provision such that for a Ghanaian, although you have not even, it doesn't have to be expressed, the terms of the old agreement will be will be transferred into the new agreement. But for a foreigner, it is not automatic. It has to be expressly stated. So that's how it is.
So okay, just as a foreigner, before purchasing a property, are there certain things that would make you more eligible? So, like, for example, is it easier for people who have work permits to buy properties?
No. Anybody at all can buy property. You can even be in Abu Dhabi and buy property in Ghana without even visiting Ghana once.
Wow, okay.
Yes. You don't
so
have
there's
to
no requirements.
have a work permit. You don't need
criminal record.
Nope, nothing. Okay. I mean, you just, provided there's no money laundering, there's really no restriction.
Okay. But how about documents? What kind of documents do people purchase it?
To purchase a property as a foreigner? So the same documents that are prepared for Ghanaians. So we have to start with, first of all, it could be an offer letter from the vendor to the purchaser. Then the purchaser will accept the offer by way of a letter or by signing the offer letter. And then the parties proceed to do an SPA or a contract for a lease. An SPA is a sale and purchase agreement. Contract for a lease is also the same thing. Essentially, they mean the same thing. These are different names. And then we have the transfer deed being prepared. All right. But in Ghana, there are rules on the preparation of these documents. So the document has to be in writing. And when they say writing, what it actually means is it must have the names of the parties. It must have their addresses. It must have the consideration. Consideration is the amount of money being paid for the land. It must have the description of the land, the proper description of the land, so that you can identify the land. And I mean, it must clearly have a site plan. So which has been approved by the Director of Survey, and it's Lands Commission compliant. It has a barcode at the back. Once you meet this requirement, then you've met the requirement of writing. So if you go and read the text, and the text says a conveyance must be in writing, and you think that just merely by putting it in writing you have fulfilled the requirement, that agreement is not enforceable unless it has these things that I'm talking about.
Okay. Yeah. So that's a lot.
That's a lot. Yeah. So that's why you need a professional to assist you. Because what actually constitutes writing is not what is in the Land Act, but it's what the judges have said constitutes writing, and this is what the judges have said.
Okay, so it's a lot. So we need lawyers.
So,
Yeah. So I mean, I think something that